Hello, everybody. Welcome to the stream, guys. Patch notes are out. We're about to take a look. I'm really excited about this. I hopped on as quickly as I could. These came out a little bit earlier than I was necessarily expecting. I was thinking about one would be going live, so we're about an hour early. Yeah, where do we start? Well, I think what up, Vatra? We'll give everybody a second to get in here because we are going live early. But let's start off by talking about what we're expecting, because I think that is like a really big thing. Knowing how we're like what we're expecting is going to determine how we react to a large extent, and then maybe after time, we can say, hey, our expectations were one place or another, and what we got was something totally different. Let's look at it still objectively without those expectations in our mind, and maybe we'll feel a little bit different. But right now, I mean, we're somewhat just reacting. We're taking a look and seeing. We expect some major changes. That's one of the big things. We expect some, something big. It's been an extra week, right, since we've gotten any changes, and you know, a lot of people, I think, are of the mind that whatever is happening here is mostly what's going to go live. I don't think that necessarily has to be the case. ZOS has done patch day updates, and I mean, if they were ever going to do that, this would make sense that this would be the time. So we might still see some when it goes live. But I do think that largely this will be the state of the game when it goes live. We'll have to see, minus a couple of changes. Hey, all, what's going on? Welcome. All right, guys. So we're just giving everybody a second to get in here. Let me just check and make sure the stream is okay. Looking good. Vatra, this is what I do, man. YouTube and making videos and streaming is what I do. So I'm not really out of work early today, man. This is what I do. This is how I spend my days. For those who don't know, I have like a second channel as well. I can pull it up here real quick, where I cover tabletop. Yeah, we'll see if we can find me. This is me over here. So I also do tabletops, man. So if I'm not making videos, yeah, I do about 20 hours of live streams a week minimum typically, and then obviously I work more than 40 hours a week. As you might imagine, the rest of the time is spent doing videos and what have you. All right, guys, so we've given everybody a little bit of time to get in. Let's go ahead and dive into these patch notes here. I have gotten I was told by one person who sent me that told me that the patch notes were live. We're like, I can't wait to see your reaction. So we'll see. We got our copium here if we need it. You know what? I can't remember if this is mirrored or not. I think your screen might be mirrored, but there we go. The official copium label for when we have to do a copium stream. The copium label has seen better days. But that's okay. All right, Elder Scrolls Online version. Actually, let me switch scenes here so that's a little bit larger for you guys. There we go. All right. Version 11.0.3 kicks off week 4 of the PTS cycle. The main focus of this week's PTS update is to address combat changes. So far, so good for both classes and upcoming trial sets. Okay. Additionally, we have a variety of fixes and improvements for Season of the Worm Cult Part 1 content. There are more adjustments and fixes for Aussie and Cage and overall quest fixes. All right. What up, Daedric? New copium label win. I mean, dude, this kind of high quality work here, craftsmanship, if you will. Wait, there we go. Is this is the work of hours and days and even weeks to make something this, this quality, man. But we'll see. I will talk to the props department and we'll see if we can't get a new copium label for the next stream. I don't think I want to do one right now. I don't think I have a piece of old mail lying around that I can write copium on. Actually, I probably do, but I'm not going to do it right now. That's not what this is. It's not just old mail that has copium written on it, guys. This is, again, professional work done by the massive team over in the props department, and they did a great job on it. Comic Sans font. Oh, my God. You're right. That's what we need. Dude, but this is just my handwriting, man, so I got to do Comic Sans. You're right. I'll try to copy it. There are also more base game adjustments, including add improvements to the Heroes Return efforts. Cool. Overall, you will find fixes to fallen banners, high isle, solstice, base game content in this week's patch notes. Okay, we have copied all PC EU characters, so the PTS is now on EU. Cool. All right, let's get down here. So Heroes Return. This is the stuff for those who don't know. Heroes Return. We're not going to go deep into this, but Heroes Return is just what they're doing for people that come back to try to help reintegrate them, get them into the game if it's been a while, because I think they're expecting a lot of people to come back for this, which I think is going to be true. Known issues, attack animations. Hey, Emmett, what's going on, man? Welcome in, welcome in. It's good to see you. Attack animations, though many more animations have been fixed from the previous PTS. Some abilities still contain extraneous movements, particularly in the extremities. Hands, tails, weapons, feet, which looks like twitching, shaking, or overly abrupt movements. Okay. I mean, some of them just don't work at all. It's weird when they say this because like some of the attack animations just still don't go off at all, and they've never said that. And I don't know why. I feel a little bit gaslit, but you know, okay. If casting while running diagonally, character. Okay, so there's some minor things. All right, here we go. Here we go. Combat and gameplay. All right, combat and abilities. General abilities that are traditionally referred to as beams. Okay, beams is becoming a class of apparently beams are becoming a class of skill now. Have all been updated to now be considered direct damage rather than damage over time. Holy shit. Okay. This affects the following abilities: Radiant Destruction and Morphs, Fate Carver and Morphs, Soul Strike and Morphs, Vampiric Drain and Morphs. So that's a Nightblade buff right there with Soul Strike. Soul Strike is your wait. Soul Strike is your. Now I got to make sure. Soul Strike's a Nightblade Ultimate, right? That's the unmorphed version. Now I'm like questioning myself. It's not really a beam though, is it? Am I thinking of something else? I must be thinking of something else, right? Oh, that's Soul Magic. That's Soul Magic. I'm sorry. Okay, my bad. My bad. Okay, sorry guys. That was incorrect. This is actually the ultimate from Soul Magic. Okay, cool. Vampiric Drain and Morphs. Okay. Yeah. I'm trying to wrap my head around what all this means. Soul Gem ult. All right, thank you, Daedric. Yeah, sorry about that. Already read all of it. Let's see what you think. Okay, Trigardo, we'll see. Man, I mean, this seems like, I think this is a good thing. This seems to me like a good thing. So, you know, a big problem with some of the beams is like it was your spammable, but it was also a damage over time. And so basically, if you had a beam ability, it was treating all of your skills as damage over time. So anything that buffed damage over times buffed literally all of your abilities, including your spammables. So there's still going to be, in theory, some spammables that are channeled that will still be. I don't know. There's direct damage on your daggers, dual wielding your spammable, where you're like flailing your arms. That's multiple hits in a second. Shouldn't be affected. Deadly is useless on arc now. Wait, never mind. Yeah, because that's damage over time, right? Buffs all those abilities. Yeah, that's man, this is a big change. It's hard for me in this moment to understand what all this is going to change, but I think it's a pretty big nerf to these two skills, and I'm kind of okay with it personally. I'm trying to think of how this is going to work. But I say that there are things that, like, now we're just going to want to buff Fate Carver with like direct damage abilities and Radiant Destruction with direct damage abilities or buffs. I don't know. I don't know how that's going to work out, guys. I don't know off the top of my head. Is anybody like, no, this is how this is going to work, Night Hero? I mean, drop some science on me, because this is a pretty massive change, and I don't know that I can wrap my head around this right now as far as what all that's going to change. I do think it's pretty cool. I could see Fate Carver on a Nightblade now making a lot more sense running that that combination, since you're always looking to buff all of your direct damage on a Nightblade anyways, and to a lesser extent some of the other classes. But I think Nightblade is probably the most direct damage focused class out there. No, Chicken, you're right in time, man. We're just getting started. We kind of gave it a minute to start talking about it, man. When this is the first thing we're talking about right here. Uh, Ultimax says Resto question mark and Lightning Staff are beams, right? They were already direct damage. Lightning Staff had two portions to it as far as my latest understanding, which has been, it's probably almost a year, but I don't think they've changed it. My latest understanding of a Lightning Staff heavy attack, and I don't know about Resto, but on a Lightning Attack heavy attack, there were two portions to it. One is the damage over time leading up to it, and then at the end, that burst, that's direct damage at the end. And usually, if they're both, not being buffed individually by something with direct damage or with damage over time, they did the same amount of damage, basically. So, like, half of your damage would come from the damage over time portion, and then half from the explosion. But I don't think they're considered beams. Like I would like when I think of I would think of them as heavy attacks. I wouldn't consider them as this new category of beam. So yeah, that's interesting. Let me see what else we got. Deadly buffs channeled, so it's still fine. Oh, okay. Yeah. Okay, so it would, yeah, so for those who don't know, there are several different kinds of damage and damage types. And so you can have direct damage, you can have damage over time, you can have also channeled abilities as well. That's like another one, which typically channeled abilities have been considered oftentimes damage over time, and that's kind of one of the changes here. We'll have to see how all the interactions actually work with this, and we'll have to also see if this works the way it's supposed to. Frog says Sork is pretty strong in direct damage as well. Yeah, Sork Frog is probably the second one that I would think about for direct damage. Probably the second tier. I don't know if anybody else doing nearly as much direct damage as those two classes, Sorks and Nightblades, which is often why you have like a Sork do orb crushing and cloud rest and stuff like that. But thank you for pointing that out. Trigarda says the new crafted set with 12% direct damage could be good. Oh yeah, okay. Yeah, I tested on PTS. It hits pretty hard. Okay, so another direct damage craftable set. Okay, cool. That could be adding another craftable set into the mix. I think that's good for new players. Really good. Hey, Jessica. Jessica says, can you help a new player here? Which would be the best class to level as healer, taking into account the update? Would Necro be okay? Necro would definitely be okay. I think your number one choice right now, and this goes for tanks, healers, or DPS, is an Arcanist. And the reason for that is your class mastery scripts. Class mastery is kind of the middle option there whenever you're choosing craftable skills from the scribing, gives you a crux, and that's really good. And nobody else has a class mastery that is as good as that in all situations by far. Necro would be the second best. So it's like Arcanist way up here, Necro, and then like everybody else is way down here. And there's a pretty big gaps in between these two. So Necro's still a great option. Necro has one of the best healing skill lines out there, or probably the best healing skill line as far as actual skills you could grab from it, because it has like 3 really good healing skills on that skill line you could always run. So it's a great option. Necros are really good. They generate ultimate really well on that skill line specifically, and they also have the Necro res on that skill line. So a lot to recommend them, Jessica. It's a good choice. If you really like the Necro, absolutely go for it. It's not that big a deal losing the class mastery stuff. It's just not that big a deal. I mean, it's pretty good, but it's not the end of the world. If you really like Necros, level up a Necro. But Arcanist would be my go-to for everybody right now. Necro being a second really good option there. All right, so yeah, that's crazy. This is good, and again, having Fate Carver. The problem here is Fate Carver. The problem is not. There's some problems with Radiant Destruction. Don't get me wrong, but the problem here is Fate Carver, and the issue with Fate Carver is that it does like 50% or more of your damage on an Arcanist, or with a lot of builds now, I suppose, or depending on how you do it in the multi-class meta. I don't know the language to use to talk about that, but historically it's been like about 50% of your damage, maybe a little bit over, maybe a little bit under on an Arcanist build. And then it also, like, again, you buff all your damage over time abilities, you also buff this ability, and that's just super hooked up, right? Why not use a set or a CP or whatever that buffs literally everything you do? It's just going to have outsized rewards there, whereas most classes, your spam bull is not going to be. It's not going to be buffed by just literally everything. So basically, what they did, just so that we all know and so we all remember, several years ago, before the Arcanist came out, they spent the year before Arcanist came out slowly nerfing Templars, because Templars used to be this easier playstyle where you had a channeled spam bull ability, and it was an easier playstyle. People really liked it, and so they spent a year slowly nerfing it into the ground. Not into the ground, but nerfing it pretty hard, pissing everybody off who played a Templar, so that when they released the Arcanist, it basically took that place. And they didn't do it at the same time, because then it would have been really obvious what they were doing. But that's exactly what they did. And it worked for the most part. I mean, people who play Templar mains were still pissed, but it kind of worked. Frog says, I don't know if you mentioned this, but I think that means Fate Carver will not tick Azure Blight now as well on top of the Azure nerf. That's a really good point, Frog. Yeah. That's a really good point. That's going to make a lot of fights a lot slower. That's a really good point, because Azure was kind of the best thing there and did an outsource. Frog or anybody else, do you know the damage that we got from, like, typically from Azure Blight historically? Like, could you pick a fight and say, hey, Azure Blight gave an extra 15k to every DPS or anything like that? Let me see here. Hey, Rain. Rain says Warden has charmed too. Hold on, did I miss something? Yeah, Wardens are a really great healer. Everybody's going to want one skill line from the Warden healer moving forward, but anybody can grab that. You don't necessarily need to be a Warden base to do that now. Yeah, let me see here. I like Arcanist too. Yeah, go with an Arcanist then, Jessica. You're probably safe there. Guang Zhu, I'm forgive me if I'm butchering your name. What about Nightblade as main and U46? Again, class mastery it has charmed on it. Yeah, I just think that the most useful class mastery is by far the Arcanist, then the Necro, and then everybody else. And that's kind of across the board, because the ways you can use it. Rain, I'd have to look up charmed. Some of the other ones are okay. Yeah, if it doesn't charm them, then it gives you recoveries, and it gives you like pretty good recoveries. Is that what I'm remembering? Remind me what it does, and we can chat about it, or I could pull it up here in a second. But we'll try to keep on topic here. So okay, that's the first. Let's keep moving on. Thank you for that really good point, Frog. That this is going to make Azure Blight even worse. Although I think that we probably just go to other things that buff all of our damage, like spell power and stuff like that. So I mean, yeah, with Azure Blight, you could just blow things up, and clearly they're trying to stop us from doing that, but not a super great way to do it, I don't think. But I like the change. I like the change overall. I just don't like all the changes in aggregate, I guess. Good question. It looks like in our Planesbreaker clear, Blightseed did 20. Oh, okay. I'm sorry, 220k DPS. Okay. And it sounds like that might be over the entire thing. So, and then depending on your group's DPS, I'm assuming everybody was parsing around hitting 100k or over on a lot of those fights. That could be, I guess we'd have to look at the whole logs to really get a good idea. But yeah, that's I mean, it's pretty significant. It's pretty massive. I don't think it's completely going to change the game, but I do think it will absolutely change those fights. Basically what you have, guys, in a lot of trials. And yell at me if you want me to just get on with the patch notes, but part of the whole point is to talk about all this stuff. You'll have breakpoints, guys. A lot of people don't realize, like, having a little bit extra DPS or a lot of bit extra DPS is really important to avoiding extra mechanics, because it's like, oh, if we get out enough damage so that we don't have to see a second or a third round of this mechanic, well, the whole fight goes a lot quicker because then we can it just speeds up the entire fight. So you have those break points where like if you have more DPS but not enough that you can avoid the mechanic, it doesn't really help that much. If you have enough that you can avoid the mechanic, that's huge. That's huge. And the difference might be 10k. You know, it's binary though. Either you avoid the mechanic or you don't avoid the mechanic, and you have to go through it, and that slows down the fight considerably because oftentimes that'll add 30 45 seconds to a fight per mechanic that you're not avoiding. So if you're continually not avoiding mechanics repeatedly, you add entire minutes to a fight, even in a relatively high damaging group. So it looks like Blight Seed was about 20% of all damage we did on Basai. Okay. Yeah, that's going to make Basai a lot harder there. Okay. So there's a lot of groups that were skipping portals or doing less portals that are now going to have to do more portals. So that's going to make a lot of the content for some of the people that are struggling the most more difficult. So that's not amazing, but I like doing mechanics, so I don't mind too much. Thank you for that, Frog. That's great info for everybody. Yeah, that last portal is really hard in execute. Yeah, yeah. Pierre says, I want to run Gravelord, Herald of the Tomb, Winter's Embrace. Wonder if the new buff to Pierce Gold will make Glacier Colossus better. I guess we shall see. And Tentacular Dread damage boost from that too. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, Tentacular Dread is great in general. The 10% increased damage, was it not applying to those skills, Pierre? I didn't test it out, so I don't know for sure. All right. Curative Rune Forms, Arcanist Domain. Update the tooltip for this ability and Smorph to improve abilities functionality for gaining the effects. Okay. The tooltips now specify that you are given the effect for entering the area rather than standing in the area at any time. This adjustment is rather minor in appearance, but gets into how many ground-based effects with persistency operate, particularly in the case of target acquisition and target caps. Typically, unless an ability states otherwise, target caps for effect are limited to the first 6 entities that meet the sorting behavior the ability in question has. In the context of this ability, if 7 allies enter the area all around the same time, the first 6 who enter the area are granted the buff, and the 7th ally will receive nothing, as this ability now correctly follows the standard of having a 6-person target cap. If one of the 6 allies who has the buff leaves the area and loses the buff, the 7th ally will not immediately receive the effect, since the validation of when the area grants its effect is handled when that target enters the area. Yeah, so they updated the tooltip so that we all know that in PvE, Arcanist Domain is kind of worthless now. I mean, cool. I'm glad they updated the tooltip after we did the research to figure out that this wasn't working. So guys, what this means, so for those who don't know, most area of effect abilities, and I say most, there's a whole bunch of exceptions too. Many area of effect abilities only affect 6 people. So when you have like a Healing Springs or Illustrious Healing or something like that, any kind of heal, and you cast it in an area, it actually only heals 6 people in that area. It doesn't heal everybody in that area, which is really confusing and also causes some problems since most trials are based around an 8 DPS setup with 2 healers often being inside that, maybe even a tank. So it makes for some pretty awkward situations. The reason that they are doing this is because if you didn't do this, one person in a PvP ball group could run Arcanist Domain, or the Morphs, and buff the entire group, right? Because they would just have to walk into it and they would be good. And then everybody can stack buffs. Well, now basically I think they're trying to limit how big groups can be for efficiently buffing everybody or make it more difficult. PvE or PvP ball people, ball group folks will have to, I'm sure you guys will have a way of working around a lot of this stuff and dealing with a lot of it, but this is a little bit outside of my area of expertise. I know about it a little bit, but I'm not by no means an expert on what the PvP folks are doing, especially with bigger groups. This is really, it's just another case of where PvP and PvE have conflicting issues, and this makes it really hard. So we're going to probably be looking at putting the buff that we really wanted from this ability, which was Minor Courage, on. Looks like right now we're going to be putting it on our banners unless something has changed down here, so that everybody can get the buff, which is fine. It's not the end of the world. It's just just is what it is, I guess. This 6 people, only hitting 6 people is really a problem in a lot of content. And it's why when you're in a group and you'll periodically, if you have newer or less experienced healers, periodically somebody will die seemingly at random. And the reason for that is because all the different HOTS, some of them aren't smart targeting, and they should be, but they won't pick that one person, and that person takes a lot of damage, and then they die. That's kind of what happens. Yeah. Still no love for Werewolf, Squiddy says. Yeah. Yet another reason PvP and PvP coding needs to be separate. Yeah. Yeah. They just refuse to listen. Oh, man. All right. So, Dragon Knight. You know what? They'll probably do it in like 3 years, and then they'll act like they come up with the best idea ever. That's what they've done before with stuff like that. All right. Dragon Knight, Ardent Flame, Searing Strike. Reduce the cost of this ability and morphs to 22.95 down from 29.70 to account for their melee requirements. Okay, so they reduced the cost of a skill. Fiery Breath reduced the cost of this ability and the Engulfing Flames morph from 29.84 to account for their melee requirements. Okay. So just moving these skills in line. So the balance here, I kind of want to talk about the game design aspect of this because I think it's kind of interesting. So it seems like if an ability is a ranged ability, they're saying, hey, here's about what the cost of it should be. And then if it's a melee ability, the benefit is that it has a reduced cost. So sustain is better. But sustain is generally, I mean, they're making it a problem on a DK, and they've played around with this idea a lot of making it a problem. Basically, nobody that I know of wants sustain to be the thing that limits you on what abilities you can cast. I think pretty much nobody wants that. Nobody wants the limit on their DPS to be sustain. I think that is fairly true. I think it's universally hated by just about everybody. Is there anybody who's like, man, I love being sustain limited on my TPS? Like, I don't think anybody feels like that. And when I say that, I am like, the exception is if you're just casting a whole bunch of AoE abilities. AoE abilities are known for being costing more, and that to me makes sense because like you can't use a giant AoE spammable constantly, because then why would you ever use a single target spammable that might do a little bit more damage? I don't know. It just kind of makes sense, but a little bit of it, like, okay, cool, but they're balancing this ability being in melee. I think melee, well, yeah, this is what they're doing. It's kind of interesting. We won't get too off topic. I could dive into this and talk about this for a long time. Noxious Breath. This morph now applies the poison status effect to all enemies hit by the initial hit. Okay, that's a little bit of awkward wording there. Okay, cool. So the poison status effect will tick for a few seconds of poison damage. So this is a buff to this ability. This makes sense. Excuse me, I have to sneeze. This makes sense. Before Fiery Breath, this will give a debuff that increases fire damage taken, and Noxious Breath would apply Major Breach. And so now this gives a reason potentially, because this might edge out on damage now. I don't know for sure, but I think that might be the case, to run this if somebody else is already running Fiery Breath. I mean, sure, guess it's fine. Let me see what we got here. Daedric says, I love having to heavy attack because I have no resources to make the game immersive. Daedric, for those who don't know him, is being sarcastic. Oh my gosh. Yeah, because, I mean, in heavy attacking to get back resources, how does that work? Am I draining resources from my opponent? How does heavy attacking? How is that immersive, Daedric? I have questions. Chicken says, I like doing heavy attacks every third to sustain. It makes me look like I know what I'm doing. I think Chicken there also being a bit sarcastic. Oh, thank you, Sooner. Hiss bless me indeed. Frog says, I agree, having to heavy occasionally is fun. Just wish they had a better way of conveying low resources to the player so we don't have to stare at the UI and take our eyes off of combat. Okay. So maybe some people do really. I'm sorry, I was reading those as sarcastic, but maybe they're heavy attack greater than Wait, heavy attack, no damage, more mechs, immersive. Okay, that's the flow of logic. Heavy attacking leads to no damage, leads to more mechs, leads to more immersive gameplay. Um, I don't know who's joking about what now. I have to because I tend to stack damage instead of recovery. Yeah, if you know, usually there's a line you can walk where you have enough recovery if you make your build. It depends on what content you're running. If you're in solo content, a lot of times you have to heavy attack. There's just no way of dealing with that. I think a lot of us are talking from a group content perspective where that is not really the case, and so yeah, I think a lot of us in group content we don't want to have to sustain. We just want to be able to press buttons to do damage, and I don't think most people really like that. And then when you're in solo, yes, you have to heavy attack and stuff like that. And oftentimes you'll play in your builds to have big burst windows. But a lot of times, depending on what kind of content you're doing, things will die so fast you kind of don't have to worry about it either. You'll have like periods where there's interludes, and then you can get those resources back. All right, Draconic Power, Dark Talons reduce the cost of this ability, and the Burning Talons morph to 3150, down from 3780. Guys, am I wrong, or did they not nerf Dragon Knight sustain in like one of the first patches this go around in update 46? Am I crazy here? Because it seems like they nerfed the sustain. Yeah, it was like the first PTS patch, if I recall. Okay, thank you, Frog. Is this Zoss just like refusing to be wrong about something? No, no, we nerfed the sustain. That was the right move. Now we're going to nerf the cost of all of the Dragon Knight abilities. Big, big brain move right there. So now the sustain hits. I guess it could hit PvP players. Maybe that's part of it. I don't always understand why they're nerfing, because I'm not intimately involved with PvP. So there could be a PvP reason. PvP obviously sustain is a real thing because it's very similar in a lot of situations to solo content. So it becomes really important. Although fights are more bursty, so it's less of a big deal there. Um, and then so they nerfed Dragon Knight, and that's going to affect tanks a lot. It's really going to negatively affect Dragon Knight tanks, making them worse. And then, although I don't think we're taking that skill line anymore very often or nearly as often as we used to, it's pretty awkward. But now we're going to reduce the cost of all of the skills to help offset that. This is really odd to me. That's a head scratcher to me. I don't know. Let me see. What do we got here? Frog says, some of our DKs were complaining about it. Yeah. And then Daedric says they nerfed DK sustain week 1. They're fixing sustain for PvE DPS. Okay. So while keeping it bad for PvP, Daedric, is that the idea? These are like PvE skills versus DK PvP skills? Frog says the Zoss combat lead doesn't know heavies restore resources, so he did this instead. Guys, Frog is referencing a live stream where Zoss took down a live stream because in it the lead combat developer for PvP didn't understand that heavy attacking restored resources and also like several other things, and he was playing on a 1-bar Oaken Soul healing build. Um, so and he was I just bit my lip. He was live streaming. So and hey, I know playing games and talking about games at the same time is very difficult. The way that you're able to do that is by being hopefully very good at the game, and your play still goes down when you're talking to chat. You guys can see it on all of my live streams. If like rare situations, I'm like in the zone, I'm locked in, I can keep up with chat and like do hard mode, sweaty mechanics all at the same time and do both very well. Rare is the day, okay? I really got to be locked in for that to happen. Most of the time, if it's like, hey, I really got to lock in for this, I stop looking at chat. I'm just focusing on what I'm doing. And, there's tricks to get around that. It's hard, it's difficult. I'm not trying to roast anybody for not being good at live streaming, but, and being good at both of these things. But it kind of showed that one, he's not very good at the game, and that two, he had very little knowledge of the game. And they took that down because it was so embarrassing. And you know what? Um, I'm making a mess because I'm playing with my tea. You know, I understand. I don't. I'm glad they took it down for that person, right? Because it's not that person's fault that they got put in charge of something that they don't know what they're doing. That's not really their fault. It's the higher ups' fault. So like on the one hand, but the other hand, I'm really upset that they took it down because it shows very clearly it's one of many um, experiences and plain proof that ZOS doesn't really know their own game very well, and so it's kind of an issue. I am Beck says, I hope subclassing doesn't go live. I wish they went the opposite direction and made the class kits more unique. I think this is going to kill the game for a lot of people. Beck, I think that what they're doing is much more. So I hear you. And yeah, I think it is going to kill the game for some people. I think there's a lot of people that are really upset. I do think this is more in line with what they've done historically with all of the other Elder Scrolls games, which I think is a really good thing. And I wish they would have done this years and years ago. I do think that people in ESO. So what Zoss didn't realize is like, hey, they wanted to make a MMO that was kind of like the traditional you know ZOS type games, and they didn't do that. They did it pretty poorly, and they came up with an entirely new system. And then after 11 years, people got used to this system. And there's a lot of people that only have played Elder Scrolls Online and haven't played the other Elder Scrolls games. And so for those people, now this is what they're used to. And now it's being brought more in line with what the Elder Scrolls games, the single player games, are like. And a lot of people are really pissed off. I would say also a really big thing that they did is they changed things without any concern for the people who liked things the way they were. And I think that sucks for those people. Do I like these changes? I personally like these changes. I am not married to any, flavor or idea or whatever in Elder Scrolls. And so, and again, if I am married to anything, it's the older games, and I like how this is more in line with those older games. But at the same time, I realize that this sucks for people that had a play style and had something they liked. And the thing is, they could have done this in a way that didn't screw over those people, and they didn't. They could have. It would have required more work. It would have required more finesse. It probably would have required more skill than the game designers at ZeniMax Online Studios have. And that's just the truth of the matter. It certainly would have required more time and more money than they were willing to spend. That's the really core thing. But I also think that as we talk about, they don't know their own game and what have you, they didn't really have a great idea and know of ways to do this. And one of the things that's happening right now is that there's a big section of the community that is maybe a lot of them are more casual, who had a class or a particular play style that they really liked, and now they're being affected. So for the longest time, that group of and it's not all. I'm not trying to make casuals versus not casual players, right? Because I cater very much to casuals, even though I'm definitely on the more sweaty player side, right? Like I have friends and I consider both, some games I'm casual in, some games I'm not casual in, right? So it's not a binary thing, right? Like you can be both too. So there's a lot of players though that were more casual, that were more yeah, they had a play style they liked and what have you. And for the longest time, the sweaty in-game players were like, "What the hell is Zoss doing? We're pulling out our hair. We're raging at this, And it was stupid stuff that Zoss did, but it didn't affect a lot of people, and so they didn't really care. And a lot of times, some of the shittier there's bad people on both sides, right? Of this, the like sweaty versus not sweaty, right? There's people that are jerks, and they would even make fun of like in-game players. Not most of the player base, right? Just a small segment of it. And now what's happening is that this group of people that has never had to deal with ZOS making really dumb decisions and being like really bad about a lot of things and not knowing their own game. This group of people that has not experienced that before is now experiencing ZOS at their finest, at their finest of pissing off the community. And that's what's happening. And so this group of people that has never had to experience this before, and some of them are quitting and are going to quit and have uninstalled or going to uninstall, and they're raging. I know because I see it in the comments of some of my videos, because I've covered this probably more than I think any other creator. The changes are almost I think I've done more videos on it than any other creator out there that I know of, at least. I'm sure there's exception, but I think I've done a lot. And so I've seen a lot of comments on my videos about this stuff where people are really upset. And those of us who have been around and have been paying attention to the patch notes for years and years and have seen all this stuff before, like we're I am upset on really on other people's behalf that their play style is going away, but I'm also like, yeah, of course this is what they would do. This is what they've been doing for years and years, and they've never cared what we thought, and they've never cared what how the players feel. Zoss is going to do what Zoss is going to do, and that's just the way it is. Somebody left a very heated comment in we have notes on like, hey, what's this going to do to the group optimization, and they left this long thing that was venting and everything, and I was like, yeah, we all feel that way, but we felt that way for years, and so this is all old news to us. So when I don't get my blood pressure doesn't go up whenever I see Zoss doing Zoss things. And but I think for a lot of people that's not the case because they haven't seen it for years and years, and it's going to be it's going to be an issue for them. People are going to be mad. Let me catch up here on chat, guys. I know it. I am sad for the day that I'm not going to be able to ever keep up with chat, but for now I'm going to keep trying. Let me see. Daedric says PvP or DK tank, maybe. I think that's in response to all of the sustain issues and stuff like that. Ryan Herder says, hey, love your content. One thing, you could turn up the output on your stream about 5 decibels. Really? Okay. Huh. To be where other videos are, I have hearing issues and have trouble hearing you while I hear others just fine. Ryan, I will absolutely do that, man. Thank you for the very specific and very useful advice. How is that? Is that better? Hopefully I'm not blowing other people's ears out. My gain, Ryan, is almost maxed out here. I have a condenser, obviously microphone. So if you have any, sorry guys, we're going off topic just for 2 seconds. And I have, a Tascam Mixcaster, and I don't know what else to do, man. Because one of the things I worry about is I'm in an open room right now. There's a kitchen right beside me and everything, and this is where I have to stream it. So I try to keep it a little bit lower so that you guys don't get the background noise. And but yeah, man, I appreciate that, Ryan. If you ever have audio advice for me, please give it to me, man. Some of the best advice I got was someone told me that I sounded like I was recording in a trash can, and they were absolutely right. And they said some other mean things. I don't care about the mean things. I just care about the really good input and really good feedback that I got from that. So please, man, I thank you so much for that. Trigarda says, I don't have a big problem with subclassing as a concept. The problem is the outrageous damage increases that will trivialize content. Trigarda, I think that is a huge thing. I think Trigarda has really pointed out a really huge thing that I don't think is at all on Zoss's radar, and I don't think they care, and I don't even think they care to even. I don't think they've thought about it, but I also don't think they'll care when they do think about it, which is absolutely. They do not care at all. It is going to trivialize content, and we talked about this, and I asked folks here on a live stream while we had 40 or so people in the live stream at one time, maybe a bit more, and ask them, hey guys, do you think content is too easy? I think we even did a poll on it. Do you think content can be too easy or whatever? And I had some people tell me that they have spouses, friends, guildmates in social guilds or in trading guilds or what have you, who all are very casual, who are using heavy attack builds, that they made, who are using, not optimized at all, not sweaty players, and that they currently find much of the dungeon content to be incredibly trivial, even when not doing sweaty things. And if you guys have seen some of the live streams, I've only done one. I usually don't do dungeons anymore, but we did one the other day, and it was 3 DPS, 1 tank, and we were one-shotting trifectas on DLC dungeons. And the big problem is trivializing of content. All right, cool. Hopefully the audio is better. Let me keep going through here. Crude Red says, I left completely, sold my account on a forum and walked away. I'll just watch you. Red, hey man, I appreciate you still watching, man. That sucks. That's the kind of thing where I'm like, yeah, this could have been avoided, I think, and or at least minimize the impact of. And I don't think they really went there at all. But hey, man, I'm glad you're here and appreciate you still watching. We cover other, cover other games here. And I'll continue to do that as time goes by. Wedemar says, I am just joining. I'm just joining terrified as usual. Nerfs, nerfs, nerfs. No bueno. Yeah. Frog says, Frog Master, I should say. But Frog says that's a really good point. This impacts the wider player base more as where most of the previous changes only affected in-game players harshly. Yeah. Wrong Way says I'm on the fence, man. Wrong Way, I mean, yeah, totally understandable. From my perspective, I think all this stuff is really good. I think it's being implemented very poorly and it's going to piss off people needlessly, but I do personally like the changes. And again, I have a lot of sympathy for those who this is peeing in their Kool-Aid, man. This is messing up their play style. Nana says, as a new player, I have to grind 3600 CP in all classes too. Guess I'm 10 years. Guess in 10 years I am up to date. Nana, the good news is you don't have to grind out all the classes. Nor, first off, I don't recommend grinding at all. Okay, if you want to grind, if that's your style, some people like to go for it, but take your time. Level up your character. Once you hit CP, if you want to grind up, if you get 600 or 700, 800, you're totally fine. The difference between having 3600 CP, I don't even have 3600 CP, I don't think, and just getting like enough, which is honestly like probably like 800, it's not a big deal, and you're going to be just fine. And I really would encourage you, your skill level is going to be the main thing. And if you're a high skill player, it won't matter where your CP is. And if you're a low skill player, it won't matter that your CP is really high. It's really, ESO is really all about skill, to be totally honest with you. That's what really matters the most. And a lot of people don't understand that. It really is all about your personal skill. And some people think that CP matters. They're just wrong. And they might not like you in a group or something because of that. They're just wrong and they don't know what they're doing. That's all there is to it. So it is what it is, but that's all that's going on. Hey, boss, you're late, man, but I'm glad you're here. I just play Helldivers too. Hey, man, cool. Well, we can play together, man. You should come by the Discord. We got 2 runs a week of Helldivers going on. One's tomorrow at 6 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Mountain Time, and then we always do one on Saturdays too at 8 p.m. Eastern Time, 6 p.m. Mountain. Ryan Harness says, oh my God, that's perfect. Okay, Ryan, thank you, man. I appreciate so much your feedback. Jessica says, started my Arcanist. Thanks for the help. Hey, no problem. Hey, Stan, it's good to see you, man. Yeah, it's kind of quiet. Okay, cool. Hopefully we got that fixed. Daedric ESO says, upgraded from trash can to cardboard box. Let's go. Hey, man. Trash can to cardboard box. I like it, man. One day we'll get off the alley, man. We'll get out of the alley and get someplace nice. It's funny because like my green screen is peeking through right now, or can it sometimes. It's because I'm in a giant room. It's our living room, kitchen, and I'm actually in the formal dining room, which would be like it's more of a breakfast nook, I think. That's where I'm set up here because we're in a like a apartment or whatever, and there's so much light in here, and I can't control the light that I can only do so much to keep the green screen from peeking out during the day because it's so bright. If it's overcast, it changes. So yeah. Jessica says, to be honest, I prefer ESO philosophy more than WoW's. And WoW, it is toxic, and you need a CV to do a dungeon. Yeah, that's like for those who don't know, a CV is a curriculum vitae, or like basically like a resume. You got to give someone your resume to even run a dungeon. Yeah, that is, yeah, that's unfortunate. I think it's, there's a middle ground. We could talk, actually, maybe that would be a good idea for a live stream, but developers can do a lot to control and to shape the culture around a game, and it's not that hard to do, and most developers don't even ever consider it. The guys over at Arrowhead have, and they've done an amazing job. Been playing since launch, still CP 2400, Frog says. Yeah, so you don't need 3600. And yeah, that's someone who's been playing since launch. Ryan Harner Music says, this is an overwhelming change, and I think too much, too fast for ZOS, especially considering their track record on balancing issues. Yeah. Crude Red says, Defiance FPS MMO is back up and running, really populated. Okay, should I give that a shot? Should I add that to the list, man? I did take a look at some stuff. I tend to be a late adopter on most things because usually that's what leads to the best outcomes. Boss says, "Don't worry, I have a hall pass." Okay, excellent, Boss. Wrong Way says, "Played a little on PTS. I really don't understand the benefits for it, and it seems wrong if they want to punish us for staying pure class." Wrong Way. I mean, we could talk about that a lot. We could talk about that a lot. I have some friends. I have a friend who's a developer actually for another AAA company, and he does back end stuff. But he's been in the game industry for decades and decades, and he pointed out that and this is a really good thing. I don't really care about lore too much in Elder Scrolls games. I know a lot of people really get into lore for every game or different games. Um, it's not that I don't like lore. It's just that I don't usually get emotionally attached to it. And one of the things is like, how is this going to make sense in the lore? How are you going to be a necro Templar? There's a lot of stuff even in the in-game lore. Like necros are bad, right? But like we are a necro, so like there's kind of some odd things there that don't necessarily line up. And a lot of the stuff seems like it was done with there's kind of like, yeah. And you know what? If they're going to make this big of a change to the game, um, again, they could have done a huge in-game, in-lore thing to make it all make sense. And maybe some of the new stuff, maybe it does some of that to some extent, but I doubt it. And I think that would again take more work and more time and more money than ZOS is willing to put in for this kind of stuff. And again, I'm not even trying to make a value judgment. I'm just saying that seems to be the case, and it just is what it is. Um, I get that people are disappointed at it. Absolutely. Makes sense. That said, I usually end up feeling okay about the changes they make, spending all the PTS freaking out about them. Okay. Yeah. Trigarda says this is probably the last big combat changes. Do you think they will react to feedback down the line, like in the Q3 and Q4 updates? Trigarda, as a rule, ZOS doesn't react to any feedback. ZOS does what they want to do, and sometimes they'll tweak something and grab one idea somewhere that they thought was good. But we have a long, long history of ZOS just completely ignoring feedback. All right, let's keep moving here, guys. I'm sorry, we'll catch up on chat here in a minute. Necromancer, Bone Tyrant. So Bone Goliath, Pummeling Goliath. This morphs special attack bash now. I'm sorry, this morphs special bash attack now works for non-Necromancer classes. Okay, the bash wasn't working; it was bugged out. Interesting. Sorcerer, Daedric Summoning, Bound Armor. We got Bound Armaments, reverting the previous 10% damage reduction made during the first week of PTS. Okay. For real? All right. They listen to Skinny Cheeks here. This would be a great example of them listening to Skinny Cheeks. This was an ability that they're balancing on a spreadsheet. They didn't realize that, hey, it didn't need a nerf to begin with, and they just fixed it. That's great. I wonder if they did this just to appease Skinny Cheeks so that he can make a video and point out how they did it. It's a great move. I'm fine with it. I don't care what they do, or I don't care why they do what they do as long as they do the right things. So that's great. That's good. Dark Magic. Dark Exchange. This ability and its morphs now break stealth and invisibility immediately upon activation rather than not removing either at all. Okay, so they had to change a bunch of abilities so that they were affected by stealth mechanics now that everybody can stealth, and they made a bunch of abilities where they break stealth now. That's so you can't be in stealth, hit this ability, and get infinite resources back. That's a good change for PvP. Storm Calling, Lightning Splash. This ability and its more synergies can now be self-synergized to make the abilities far less like a sacrifice for the caster to run. Okay. Cool. All right. Sounds good. I mean, getting more self-synergies is kind of interesting. This works really well too for tanks, although I don't know if any tanks are going to be running. I guess we might be running Storm Calling for the Atro. Probably not that big of a deal. Just is what it is. Jessica, am I going to play Dune? Yes, I am absolutely going to play Dune. I was really bummed that they had to move the release date. I am not a cool kid though. I don't have early access to Dune, but I completely plan on doing that. Oh, Stormcalling is Overload, not Atro. Oh, okay, my bad. My bad. Oh yeah, because Atro has got to be from Daedric Summoning. What am I thinking? Yeah, thanks, Daedric. Yeah, so this is okay. This is a really minor change. I don't know how many people, if anybody, this affects. I don't know if this ability is suddenly going to get used because of this. I don't feel like it, but I could be wrong. There could be something else there that I'm missing. Feels like they should have left passive to class and let you use skills on other classes. Oh, that's interesting. That would have been different. Trigarda also said, I think I missed this one. This is probably the last. Oh, never mind. Never mind. I did actually catch that one. Yeah, yeah, okay. It's not the lore, it's the role play. My precious role play. Are you? Okay. And this messes up with your role play. I mean, it does. Like, I don't know, or maybe it opens up possibilities, but it changes things, and people don't like change. And when you've been expecting one thing and they do something out of left field, it does piss people off. Feels like they should. Okay, yeah. Dry Soup says, if you wanted to PvP with a bow, should I go Stam Sorcerer or another class? Dry Soup, I don't think it's going to matter very much in the, moving forward, because you're going to be able to grab so many different class skill lines. I don't know if I could tell you. I think you're going to be just fine with a Stam Sorc. I don't know if I could tell you definitively. I know that I can't tell you definitively what would be the best option, but maybe someone in chat knows. Does somebody in chat have a good advice for Dry Soup here? And then Frog says, yeah, when I tested Bound Armaments on PTS, it was doing the same damage as Rapid Strikes, so pointless to run. Glad they reverted it. Yeah. It's too good. I'm sorry, it's not good enough buff to oh my god, I can't read. That's not good enough buff. It again, Bound Armaments is still pretty meh. Yeah. Yeah. Well, it was meh before and then they nerfed it for no reason. So that was the problem, boss. Yeah. Okay. Templar, Atrix Spear, Spear Shards, Lumina Shards. The synergy granted from this ability can now be self-synergized by the caster in many cases. I don't know what in many cases. What does that mean? Well, Luminous Shards, this is huge for a sustain perspective because that's like 4,000 magic and stamina, right? That you could give to yourself. That's pretty huge for tanks in PvE. That's pretty massive. Blowplar is a meme, but it's a fun meme. There you go. Okay. Dawn's Wrath, Radiant Destruction. This ability in its morph now lasts for 3.8 seconds in total, down from 4.8 seconds. Reduce the cost per tick to 1080, so the cost per second remains the same over the total duration / tick rate. Okay. Increase the base damage by 4%. Increase the health threshold and execute scaling at start. Oh, I'm sorry, I can't read. Increase the health threshold the execute scaling starts at to 33%, up from 30%. Increasing the status effect chance per tick to 6%, up from 3%. Okay, so this is a buff across the board, right? Increase base damage, increase when it starts scaling, and increases the status effect chance. Actually doubles it, so that's pretty huge. Radiant Glory reduced the cost of this morph to be a 40% cost reduction, up from a 33% cost reduction. Reduce the healing done to 15% of the damage done, down from 20%. Radiant Oppression, this morph's execute scaling now starts at 40%, up from 39. Let's see what the developer comment is. We're peeling back the commitment time by 1 second to try and better accommodate for rotation timing and item set interaction. This is so things like stack-based sets don't have such a short window before they'd fall off. In addition to this, we're also gently bumping up the damage the ability can do to help get some of their power back in from before. For example, Radiant Glory now sacrifices a bit of its healing potency in exchange for a further cost reduction. So it's a tiny bit easier for non-Magicka focused builds to utilize. Meanwhile, Oppression sees a slight boost in power to make it a little clearer on when to start using it, but from a less DPS delta between them. I'm sorry, but with less of a DPS delta between the morphs. Okay, so they nerfed this skill by changing the way it worked and what buffs it would get. So then they gave it a whole bunch of buffs back, I think, to make it essentially, more in line. I don't know what all these exact percentages are going to lead to as far as damage. We'll have to test this out. Reducing the duration by a whole second is, this does make sustain a bit harder because they are saying it's going to cost the same over the duration, if I'm reading that correctly. So It's going to be a little bit harder to sustain. It now lasts for a full second less, but the damage is up 4%, increased scaling, and increased chance of applying it. Let me see. With both jabs and beam being direct, now I could run both Deadly and Naraneth on my Plar. Neat. Okay. And then Rain says maybe they'll start making skill lines to add like a damage frost skill line. Yeah, I think skill lines, I think that's immediately what everybody went to, is like maybe they'll start making skill lines. It would be cool. I think a lot of people want like a monk unarmed skill line. That would be cool. I think there's a lot of us who wanted that. I don't know if they're thinking about that or if it's on their radar at all. I know they won't tell us. Zoss likes it when we kind of daydream, because then we can all pretend like we're going to get the thing that we really want, and they just don't ever tell us where they're going. So, but it would be cool, and I think a lot of people would really like that. I have no idea if that's in the cards at all. I imagine it's, again, unless they were already going to do it, like they're not going to do it because we asked for it. At least not in the next 2.5 years. They're if we give them a good idea now, even if they did take it, it'll take them 1.5 years before they can even like start to get it out. Frog says true. True, there had been a contradiction on Templar for a while there. And then Volswell says, I think they did that so it works with Reliquin better. Yeah, Reliquin, and there's a couple of other sets where, like, yeah, you couldn't run them together because I think there's several sets that are on is it 5 seconds? I'm pretty sure it's 5 second, where you have to light attack. Similarly with World of Depths, you got a light attack, and I think there's some others out there as well. So this does make it a little bit easier to keep that buff up times with it, which I think is a good thing in general. Keeping, where it's not like, oh, I just can't run this set now because of this. Yeah, I guess we'll just have to see how this goes. I don't mind most of this for the most part, and then working it into the rotation. So a lot of people were already canceling this skill early. You just block cancel or whatever, because to work it into a rotation as it was. And so, Daedric, is this going to work better into a beam rotation now with, I don't know if you played with that very much, but that was a problem. But the thing is that since the cost wasn't up front, it was over time, it didn't really matter if you had to block cancel it, because you just did it whenever you needed to work it into your rotation. So I don't know if that's that big a deal. Maybe it makes it easier on new players. Oh my God, that's it. Okay, so not a whole lot, huh? I think we were expecting a lot more changes. Well, Winter's Embrace, Piercing Cold. Oh, okay, my bad, I missed one. Increases this passive, okay. Increases passive increase to frost damage to 17 and 50%, up from 5 to 10. Okay, we're temporarily inflating the damage of this passive to influence frost damage a bit more aggressively than we'd like, until we can find better long-term solutions, like more sources of frost damage in general for those who wish to wield the cold like a weapon. Hey, that's really cool. I mean, Frost Wardens things were not looking good for a Brittleton or a Frost Warden at all. And I tried making a build, guys, and it was pretty bad. So I think it's interesting that they're like, hey, more cold abilities. I think we'd all like that. I think that would be cool because there's not that many. And it's like one from a couple of skill lines. And yeah, there's item nerfs, got to read them. Okay, I'll keep going. And Daedric says, yeah, it works better with Reliquin and other 5-second sets, like Volswell said. Yeah, Daedric, I meant as far as the rotation, man. I wasn't sure if you had some experience with it, with anything in particular. Trigarda says more thematic builds would be cool. Yeah, absolutely. Cool. I like this change. I will say, guys, there is nothing here that is going to grossly change anything, right? Like, besides the beam. The beam is, obviously, that's a pretty big nerf to the beam. But I don't, and it could mean that using Tentacular Dread with some of those other builds that weren't beam focused now will relatively increase in value, as far as like they'll be better. And so I think that this actually might result in a cool situation where you can either use the beam, or, and that's a very easy play style that works really well, does a ton of damage, and nobody's going to complain if you bring the beam. But if you use some of those more single target focused builds that are not beam based, you actually can, if you have that, they're much harder to use, but you can get more damage out of them. And I think this might lead to that being a better situation. I would say that's absolutely the biggest change out of everything we've seen here. I think all of this other stuff is very small, and I don't think it really changes anything. Which, as someone who's made a bunch of videos on this stuff, I'm kind of happy about. I don't really. I mean, that's not a good reason for things to change or not change, but I'll take the W, I guess. Wrong Way says, so how quickly are you gonna have some updated subclassing builds on your site? Wrong Way, dude, I've already made two. Man. But I'll do them as quickly as I can. I've already made a healer and I've already made a tank build, and yeah, man, I'll be pumping them out. I'll probably be working with some people in the community and see if so if you're one of those sweaty people and you got a build, guys, you want it. I would love to present your build. I need to play with your build and understand your build before I present it to an audience. But I would love to do that. If there's anybody out there, feel free to reach out to me. Main things is like why the build. Like if it's just damage, that's perfect. But like you might have a build that's like, hey, this one does this thing really well. That's important for why do people want to use it. But that's my plan. I plan on doing it as much as I can. Wrong Way. So are you looking for DPS specifically or what? And then because I haven't messed too much with DPS because I expected way more changes than we got, and we just didn't get that many. Chicken says I would rather tentacles and throw skeleton than beam. Yeah, I think a lot of us would. It's just like a lot of us too just want like different play styles. Like, don't give me. I just want more than. I just don't want the exact same play style. And so it's like, yeah, beam is cool, but like sometimes I want to do something else. Probably support. I'll take a look. Okay, yeah, the tank setup is meant to be like a perma blocking setup. There are more meta setups, but I have done a couple of build videos already, kind of explaining what class lines more generally you want to grab. Wrong Way. So check that out too, because it all of it still applies. But yeah, I'll have specific builds out. Absolutely. We just have to wait till all this stuff kind of tones down, which I understand you realize as well. All right. Mythic items. Pearls of El Nofe. This set now grants major heroism for 1.5 seconds, 1 tick of 3 ultimate after using a healing ability, while under 50% of your dominant resources, rather than granting a unique form of 3 ultimate. Okay. That sucks. Daedric, is this what you were talking about, man? Oh my god, this sucks. What the hell? Oh my god. We're making an adjustment of this set to no longer grant a unique form of ultimate generation to prevent the upper end of ultimate production when specializing in that role. This will grant the same total amount when it activates, but won't be able to stack with other sources of major heroism. That sucks. And the next one? Okay. All right. So guys, pearls, like, this is how sweaty healers, you could generate a ton of ultimate. So you can be casting pillagers off of cooldown. And it was a fun and engaging playstyle for your, and I'm doing this playstyle. I'm SBC Pillager's Prophet running Pearls of El Nofe in multiple hard mode groups right now. And honestly, I don't even probably use pearls always. Like, depends on the group. Like, sometimes I don't drop my mag as hard as I could because I just get tired of spamming buttons. So that's kind of nice. But yeah, this is a huge change, and I don't know why. This is fixing something that wasn't broken. Daedric, would you agree? Is this not fixing something that wasn't broken, that wasn't a problem? Oh god, Pillager's Prophet. Oh my god. Oh god. Okay, Pillager's Prophet. Reduce the amount of ultimate this set grants per tick to 2%, down from 5% of the ultimate spent. Wow. These are small numbers, right? But this is an absolutely massive nerf. This is a 60% nerf. We're peeling back some of the raw ultimate generation with this set to better account for its realistic target cap of 11, as well as preparing for how much ultimate generation we're seeing now that builds can better specialize with subclassing. Okay, so now we're going to want to get this ultimate generation back from subclassing so that we have to take certain skill lines. This means that we're going to have to take certain skill lines for no other reason than they give ultimate or make it easier for ultimate. That sucks. That is a bad idea. This is, I don't want to have to go into a skill line purely because I get a little bit of ultimate back. The good news is, so this sucks and this is bad game design. IMO. Okay. The the only the only thing that is kind of okay about this is that the catalyst passive for the Nightblade is from a decent skill line, which is one place you get 30 ultimate every 45 seconds. And the other one is a living death skill line from a Necro, where you get the basically the same amount of ultimate generation by consuming corpses. Works differently, guys, but it gives basically the same amount of ulti gen. And that's a really good skill line for a healer to grab. It is forcing you to grab two skill lines to get really good ultimate generation. And then we're giving a lot less ultimate back. I don't know. Maybe it's okay. Maybe it's okay with it. This is. Sorry, I just need a moment. Okay, so this is kind of like when you're in a group who's new to a trial. Okay, this is an analogy, guys. Follow me. You're in a group that's new to a trial, and the problem is that the tank is dying. Okay, and so what you do is you have the tank change up all of his sets, so there's survival sets, and then you have the healer add on healing sets to see if they can give them more healing and maybe some more damage mitigation. Maybe they put on guard or whatever. And you jump through all these hoops to try to solve the problem. Now the problem was the tank needed to get better. And that's all there was to it. The tank, that was the problem and that was the fix. But instead we changed everything else we're doing to try to solve this problem. And that's the equivalent of what's going on here with game design. So they're changing all of these things that were not broken. They were not broken. They're changing all these things that were not broken so that they can they can work around the things that they actually should have fixed. I'm not. How do you guys feel about this? I don't like it. I don't like it at all. We still have more stuff to read. We'll keep going. I want to see. I want to see what everybody else thinks. 400 ultimate pillagers now gives 40 ultimate. Yeah. Um, you know, this happens all the times with games when we're talking about stuff and we're like, don't take a hammer when a chisel will do. And this is like Thor's hammer here taken to this. This is massive. Ballspa says I'm surprised Rite of Passage didn't get the magma armor treatment. Permanent Rite of Passage builds are still very much possible. Okay. Yeah, for PvP. That's interesting. Voss Boss, they're a lot weaker though, because you don't just like, right? Because it brings you up to resistance cap, I think. I don't know. I don't know how the survivability on him is now. And then Frog says, LMAO, so glad I finished PB before this. I was the Pillager's Prophet healer. Oh man. Frog, I'm the Pillager's Prophet healer in multiple groups. So I don't like 40 ultimate for 500 is probably not worth it. It's just a question of like what else can we put on there. I think we probably just dropped. So it feels to me like they just killed these two sets because like because you can get major heroism from trample. So that's one skill versus a mythic. So like I think probably what happens. I think probably what happens is that we all swap, and for our mythic now, the problem is we lose a monster set, which sucks. But I think probably we would all just slot Spalder of Ruin or something, right? Like that would be better. And we can already get really good recoveries that'll balance out the minuses we get from that, but we do lose a set. So I don't know. That's kind of what I would think off the top of my head. I think that would be what happens here. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know about all this. uh, Vossball says, bro, they literally domed my mag blade. Yeah, mag blade really benefited from that being able to cast in cap quite often in content. And then Daedric says, yeah, subclassing doesn't even give you much more ulti gen without cucking your group. Yeah. I mean, no DPS is going to go into a skill line to generate more ultimate. So that's really just like a nerf to how many times you get to cast your ultimate. Sure. Hey, Mel, it's good to see you. Uh, yeah. Chicken says, here's your rug. Question mark? Yank. Yeah. Yeah. Okay, so uh Jammins says, I don't know if that's Jammins or if it's an H, the H sound there. I'm going to say Jammins because I think that sounds really cool. So you still don't get the same amount of ult back with pearls, but it's a named buff, not unique, so it doesn't stack. Yeah, correct, Jammins. That is correct. So that again, you have a skill that replaces this. So you don't need this unless you just really need the bar space, and probably you can spare one. I mean, bar space is really tight on a healer right now, so maybe you can't run anything else, and so this is fine. But yeah, it doesn't feel amazing. And then how long does it last? After one tick of 3 ultimate after using a heal. So you have to keep using healing ability. Yeah, yeah. This is super hard to keep up too. Yeah, you're just not going to run this. I don't. Very rarely, I think is anybody going to run this. This would be really hard if it procced for like 6 seconds. That would be one thing. But if it's not going to proc for any amount of time, it's constantly casting this to keep major heroism up. Why the hell would you not just use trample? You're just going to use trample. Almost no chance. Almost no shot. Yeah. Yikes, man, bruh. Yeah, yeah. Daedric says, terrible change. Subclassing doesn't give nearly that much ult gen to justify the mega nerf. Agree. Yeah. Screw vanilla classes, Vossball says. Yeah, that's how it feels, huh? Gemin says, with pillagers, oh, chat's popping up. Sorry. With pillagers, which after a 45-second cooldown and a 400 ultimate spent cap, most healers wouldn't even get the full 400 ult back every 45 seconds. They'd be more around 330 ultimate. That's a really good point. You can now, yeah. So I guess you would again need to spec into those other class seal lines just to be able to get to that 400 ult point. That's a really good point. I could look at some logs and I bet we could figure out exactly it, or maybe you already have gems, and then that's like, that is like that is the number you came up with. Let me know if you have. So if you want to cast pillagers on cooldown every 45 seconds, it will be a much lesser value. Yeah. Jadric says, in my opinion, not even worth running pillagers now. Yeah, I would agree. Tend to agree at least. It's a legit joke. Gives the same amount of ulti as minor heroism. Yeah. 400 ultimate pillager spent for 40 ult back is crazy. Yeah. Vatra says, kind of glad I don't have to farm pillagers. Yeah, I told people, guys, I even said in some of my videos that I didn't think the healer sets were going to change, and I guess Zos was like, you know what, fuck that Night Horror guy. Oh gosh, yeah, this is going to greatly change it. I mean, I don't think you'd run this set anymore. Yeah, Frog says, good point. Easier to cast one skill with than manage your mag for the entire fight. Yeah, absolutely. Trigarda says not Spalders. No, they don't want Spalder. Hey Buzzard, what's going on? And yeah, it's with a J. Okay, Gemins. Excellent. Because like if it was an H, I'd be like, oh, it's okay. It's more like Mexican or South American or something. But Gemins kind of makes me think more Jamaican. I love both areas, but Mel says week 5 nerfing Crypt Cannon and Trample. I mean, Mel, it feels like it. They're going to be like, oh, you guys are going to work around that? Oh, okay, let us just nerf some other shit into the ground. I hope that doesn't happen, Mel, but like, it feels like it could. God, it feels like it could. That's, man, okay. They actually just killed the entire mythic. That's insane. yeah, dude. Because the thing about the mythics, too, is like, Pearls has been fine. And they've made tweaks to it, but it's been fine for years and years. These things are not easy to farm up, nor are sets, and then just to nerf them into the friggin' ground, like that feels bad. That feels really bad. So yeah, Jamin says, are they looking at it like now everyone will have access to Nightblade Catalyst passive? I don't, Jamin's. I think so. A lot of people. So it's a good question. It's a good question. What are they thinking? Who the hell knows, man? Do they even realize what they're doing most of the time? The answer to that is no. We have a lot of evidence that no, but yeah. It's a good question to ask. Yeah. 400 ult without LNFA is rough. Yeah. Well, I think you're going to take the Catalyst passive for the Nightblade skill line, and I think you're going to want to take Living Death. But it doesn't even matter now because like you're not even going to be running pearls, so like doesn't even matter. What really sucks? Oh my god, are people going to be wanting the healer to run Crypt Cannon now? Do they want to force us more people to get Crypt Cannon? I am not about that. I have it now, and I swore I would never get it. The only reason I have it is because on accident I got some of the leads, and my wife was like, "Oh, I like going around doing this, like picking flowers in this zone, so I'll go check the chest for you." And so she helped me do the dailies. But I left my own devices, just would not have done it. And I've told Daedric that there were runs where I was like, "Hey, dude, I'm not getting Crypt Cannon, so I'm not good for that sweaty group. I'm just not going to get Crypt Cannon because it's such a pain." And if that's what this goes to, that just sucks. And I think the reason too is because I think the drop rate for the Crypt Cannon leads is broken, and I don't think that Zoss is going to fix it. And that's happened before with different things. Daedric says, I seriously hope this isn't a half-cooked way of trying to nerf group DPS and content. I was kind of wondering about that, Daedric. They're making the group experience worse instead of directly nerfing the DPS setups. Again, Daedric has a great point. It really is kind of that thing where like, here's the problem, but we're not going to fix it. It's like that person at work who just doesn't do their job, and it's like, hey, listen, we should encourage them to go find a job that is more suited for them. But instead, we're all going to work around what Greg is doing at work, right? Greg's like 1,000 years old and has been here for so long that they're not going to get rid of him, so we can't get rid of him. But we're all going to have to work extra hard and do all this weird shit instead of like fixing the problem, which is Greg. Like that's what it feels like to me. Frog says, I'm not sure I want to credit Zoss with having a plan. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I don't think they usually do. But yeah, a half-baked plan, I think. Half-cocked, yeah. Mel says, SPC Pillagers and Rojo combo made healer gearing so much easier for so long. Exactly. It worked really well. And you could be like, hey, guys, here are the sets you want. Here's the 2 setups you want. You're good to go. You're good to go. I also think that part of the problem is I could have seen Rojo going away because I think we could have just put Pillagers on one and SPC on the other, and then everybody just runs Slayer stacks. I don't know. I hate that it forces you to take certain skill lines to get the ulti back that you lost from this. This is just bad. It's just bad. They shouldn't have done this. There are better solutions. And sometimes they paint themselves into a corner and then they have to knock out a wall to get out of the room. That's what happens with this. They painted themselves into a corner, said ultimate's too high, everything's too high, and so like we'll just knock a hole in the wall and walk out that way. Problem solved, right? Now we got a hole in the wall. Vossball says again they should know these sets are run together, classic Zoss, instead of nerfing one or the other, they got both overcorrecting. That's also an excellent point, Voss. That it is like they didn't just destroy one set. These are 2 ran together. So like that play style is like absolutely dead right now. Yeah, not good. Not good, Zoss. What are you doing? Trigarda says, I'm trying to get Crypt Cannon at the moment. The drop rates of the leads are just bad. Yeah, they're absolutely horrible. Yep. Mel says, this definitely feels like it's because of subclassing. Yeah, and then Daedric says, I didn't even think about Slayer. Man, Slayer comps are just way worse now. Yeah. Yeah, man. I mean, what you can do What you could do, and what you might have to do, I don't know, is you could still do, like on Slayer comps, like you could still do it, but now you got to have you got to have them all spec'd into Catalyst or Living Death or both, and running Trample, both healers running Trample for it, which just makes the playstyle a lot hard. I mean, I guess that's fine for Slayer groups because they're usually sweatier anyways. But I hate the elimination of viable options, guys. I kind of want to show you guys something just to make a point. A lot of people don't. I might pull it up. I might pull it up just to show. I'm gonna pull up another game real quick. We're gonna keep going on the patch notes, but I just want to show this real quick in a second. So a lot of people think that they've been around ESO a lot, and maybe it's the main game they played, or maybe they played WoW, or they've only played a handful of games and they've only really got into them. If you play a wide variety of games, and if you also look into like, hey, why does this work the way it works? What's going on with the balancing in this game? What you'll realize, guys, is there doesn't have to be 3 options. Okay, there can be a meta. There always will be a best option. Okay, that's okay. But there can be many options that are basically right at the same place. And what happens if this style is a little bit suboptimal, but it's really fun, then you'll that's fine. Some people will choose this play option. I know it's a lot less variables here, so it's a lot more easy to balance, but I do want to just show you something real quick with Helldivers, because I can. Let me see. So I just don't want anybody dropping in. All right, invite only. I just want to pop in some. I want to show you the options you have available to you in Helldivers, and I just want to show you so you can see all the different options. So I'm just going to drop in. I'm not dropping into like a map. I'm just going to drop into this loading screen real quick and just show you guys all the different options, because people don't understand that you can do this. All right, I just want to show you. So here we go. I can choose between these. Well, actually, I say it's less options. So what? 4, 8, 12, 16. Okay, we'll call it 20 to make it easier. We got another bunch of rows, another 20 there. So 40, 48. Again, we'll call it 52-ish, and then another 16. So 68 options here. All of these skills, all of these skills, okay, all of these weapons that you can choose are all viable. Almost all of them are viable, guys. And you could choose any combination you want. Not any combination, but you can choose many, many, many different combinations, and it can work. You can choose a whole bunch of options, and this will all work together. Not all of them work together, but many of them do. And that's just here. You can also choose a whole bunch of different, again, skills, your primary weapon. And most of these are viable. Most of these are viable. Okay? You could choose a whole bunch of these, and they will work. And then how they interact with these other skills that we were already looking at makes for interesting and different gameplay. And again, not all of them work together, but most of them do. And the biggest problem is that like 2 of them will do kind of the same thing, right? So it's like having 2 spammables or something, right? And then similarly, look, there's more weapons you can choose. Again, most of these are viable. Most of the grenades are viable. And that's what a well-designed game can be like. And we can be in the sweatiest content in the game in Helldivers with 4 of us, and we can all 4 have different loadouts, and it's all completely viable, okay? ESO can barely do this with like 3 or 4 viable options. I mean, normally DPS, like in a sweaty optimized group, there's one meta, and then how many you guys tell me how many other options? I want to say like maybe 4 on the high end. So for DPS, you're looking about maybe 5 total like options that are either optimal or very close to optimal. 5, maybe 5 total options versus Helldivers can do 40, 50. I don't even know. More than that? Probably more than that. You guys tell me how many viable DPS? I mean, healers like we're pretty much kept to like 1. You got to have a warden. You got to have a warden. Why would you not have a warden? And then maybe one other class, and then we pick the best class, but the other ones are pretty meh. I mean, for a while it's been a Nightblade, but you could really run anything there. So that's been an option. If we look at like tanks, right? for the longest time, it's just been DK and then Necro or Sork. So we got 3 options there. I don't know. It's a head scratcher for me. Let me catch up on chat. Sorry, the window's open here. I think someone's hit my mic stand. Let me move something here. Sorry if that knocking continues. Let me know. Man, as Voss Boss says again, they should have known these sets were run together. Classic Zoss, yeah. Where they just completely overcorrecting. Yeah, okay. Sorry, I already read some of those. Yeah. Tadric says, imagine if Helldivers had PvP and they had to nerf everything for that because they refused to make PvP specific balancing. That's why ESO's balance is always cooked. Yeah. And we've only been saying that for like the entire time, Tadric, for like a decade. Fest says comparing one weapon being viable to entire builds is disingenuous. Fest, I'm not making my point well enough then perhaps. That's what I said at the end. So you could have entire loadouts in Helldivers and you could have 4 people running the hardest content in the Helldivers has to offer, and they can none of them be running the same thing. So and you could, and there's more options than that. And that's just with even having one thing compared. So yeah, that's I'm not trying to be disingenuous, man. I just really think that there are many. Do you Fest? I guess do you feel like that Helldiver? Do you feel like ESO is doing just the best job they can, and that this is a problem for every game and no game could really solve it, or do you just not like my argument? I guess. Volswall says 7 Arcanists and maybe an EC Crow, a Warden healer, and a Nightblade healer, then DK tanks. Yeah, exactly. Mel says Ward Blade Plar, Ward Crow Blade. I hate subclass tri names. Yeah. I honestly thought, Mel, with the tri classic, this goes to everybody, I guess, but I really thought they were going to bring back the old class names that they had in some of the older games. I don't remember. I only played the last couple, I played them very casually, and I only played them I don't know, less than 100 hours for sure. But I played some of the older ones like a lot. And yeah, I don't know why they didn't use some of I thought they were going to use some of the older class names just for like the theming and like to tie it into the lore. Vatra says, I never understood why games don't do PvP specific balancing. It always damages PvE beyond repair. Yeah, Frog says his wider point is correct, though. So many games do balance better than ESO, even games with much more complexity. Yeah, maybe I'm making my point poorly, but I think that is still very clear. Trigarda says, and then you get fed sets every few months that are just there. Most are not viable at all. Yeah, they just clutter up the game and make it harder for new people. Thatcher says every game that's PvE focused that has PvP editions has a problem that 99% of them don't do content specifically balanced for whatever reason. Yeah. Clearly they should be separated because it really is 2 different games. And trying to do it all together just adds an extra layer of complexity that is just not fucking necessary. I don't know. We'll see how Ashes of Creation does, I suppose. Fez says, oh, absolutely not, but I feel MMOs are a whole lot more complex than a game like Helldivers. Almost no MMO I've played has had good balance. It's just the nature of the genre. Fest, I just want to say, man, I don't think it has to be that way. I understand it is that way, but I don't think it has to be that way. And I know it's hard, but the thing is that there'll be a lot of companies and there'll be a lot of people like, oh, you can't do that. You can't do that. You can't do that. And then someone comes along and does it. Electric vehicles. For the longest time, electric vehicles couldn't be done. We can't do electric vehicles. It doesn't make sense, blah, blah, blah. And then all of a sudden, electric vehicles are everywhere. And they're the best for certain things. Yes, there are issues with electric. Sorry, I'm trying to stop. I got a window open. Hold on. Trying to stop the blinds from hitting my mic stand and making that popping noise. No one could do it. No one could do it. I mean, the iPhone, right? So yes, it does take maybe there is like a quantum leap that needs to happen within, MMOs, and I know you're with me on this, but it absolutely can be done. And it sure as hell can be done better than this. I mean, again, ESO's like balancing is like some of they don't understand their own game. They don't understand how the changes that they make are going to affect the game. They don't. They've shown time and time again that they don't. And so it's just, and again, I know you guys know, and I'm just venting a little bit here, I guess, but they just show time and time again they don't understand their own game, and like this could be done better, and it could be done better if they would just talk to the community. But they really seem to have they really seem to think that have a very low view of the community, certainly of the in-game community. At least to me, that's certainly how I feel. I don't know how you guys feel. I would love to know. Let me know in the comments. Like, do you guys feel like? I just feel like they regard us in a fairly derogatory manner in most situations. Giappi says, when you say viable, what is the content you're talking about? Top 1% hard raids. Most players will not be affected by the changes, right? Or am I misunderstanding? Gioppi, I am not exactly sure the context. Sorry, because of the delay on the stream, and I didn't read it right off the bat, what context we're talking about. So let me try to wrap my head around that. When you say viable, what is the content you're talking about? So, Gioppi, what I think most players are looking for is if I choose to right now with these changes moving forward, if I choose to run a brittle den without changing it at all, and I want to run my same brittle den, compared to the highest parsing class, I am probably 40K or more away. So I'm losing 40K, which is, for me, would be like about a 40, it'd be a little bit less, but let's call it a 40% increase. So I could be doing 40% more damage if I ran a different build. That is a problem. It makes me not want to play my class. Because if the other DPS in the group can basically solo the content because they're doing so much more damage than me, it feels bad. I don't want to play that class. I don't want to play that spec. If they're doing 10% more than me, then it's viable. I would consider it viable in that situation. I don't consider 40% or really like 60% of the top to 66% or whatever to be quote unquote viable. Okay, so that's what I'm talking about. Now, some people running around Overland, you run around Overland, the content's so easy. Yeah, anything. I run around naked with like, I don't even have a weapon equipped sometimes. And if I do have a weapon equipped, it's like a white, whatever trash I had, and I just put on something so I could cast, weapon abilities. I don't mean that. Like, that stuff's way too easy. But like, I just, the difference, it matters. It matters compared to what other people are running. And I don't want it to be this, if we can get it where it's viable, and I'm like, no, but I really like my Frost Warden playstyle, I don't care if it does 10% less damage, then we're fine. And 10% less damage in this case would be, a 15K parse difference. So significant. 15K is a lot, but that would be fine to me. Ash says, I knew Rich back in 2017, and even back then he thought that balancing PvE and PvP separately was a waste of time. Okay. Wow. Ash, okay. He just thought it was a waste of time? What? Because then you have to do two different things instead of trying to do one massive thing? All right. Thanks, Ash. I really appreciate that info. That's good to know. It's not even that ESO fails at balancing PvE versus PvP. They specifically refuse to. Yeah. Vatcher said, I thought ESO's lead combat designer, not knowing heavy attacks restored resources, was a facetious joke. Yeah, no, that's true. That happened, Vatra. And there was some other stuff from that, but I don't remember. But again, they took it down. So right, yeah. To avoid being, scorned for it. Ash says, as a Templar, after years of feeling Zoss hates Templar, this feels like the patch that finally killed the class. Yeah. Vatra, on the note about the heavy attack thing too, like this is what I've talked about good companies versus bad companies in their media strategy. If you're a good company and one of your developers doesn't know something, you laugh about it. And other people might even rib them about it on stream. And then you go, hey, you know what? We're doing good though. We do good work and we're doing a great job. So like we're not worried about people seeing what we're like. Okay, that's what good companies are like. Bad companies were like, oh, let's try to pretend and hide from people and make people think, one of the things they try to do is they try to turn the community on each other, and they try to make people that are very oftentimes very casual, like they can trick them because they're not paying attention to all the patch notes and everything like we are. So those of us who have watched all these patch notes for years and years know what ZOS is like. And when ZOS says some bullshit that like might sound reasonable, but we know they're lying, we know they don't mean what they're saying, then we call them out on it and we're like, yeah, right. We eye roll or whatever. But to a new player who hasn't been watching all that stuff, like, oh, this seems like a very genuine and heartfelt message. And they're really trying to do this. And it tricks them. It's not their fault. But those of us who are like, oh yeah, it does sound like a very genuine and heartfelt message. They've said that every year for the last 7. And nothing has changed, like, oh, we're going to fix the bugs this year. Oh, sure you are, so it turns the community, and then they try to embrace this part of the community that is kind of just naive and doesn't know any better. And I think some of what's happening is some of these people, like eventually these people turn into these people because they've been around for a while after a while. And even if you're very casual, you eventually start to get a little bit more into stuff. And then you see the chaos that's going on and how bad it is. Let me see. Vatra says game companies who do listen to their player bases are much better, have better communication than those who don't. ZOS might be a great example, but games are paychecks to these studios now instead of art/good products. Yeah, I mean that's a little. You're kind of mixing two things there, Vatra, but I don't disagree. And I think that I've talked to developers who have even noted like there have been. So there are conventions that are for the game developers, and they'll talk about this stuff. And what they found, from my understanding, is that games companies that do listen to their customers end up with better games because players do often know. The thing is, you get thousands and thousands of people that have spent hundreds and hundreds of hours on your product giving you feedback on it. They've spent hundreds of hours working for free basically, and all you have to do is listen to them. And not everybody's opinion is worth the same amount. Please don't get me wrong on that. But if people are willing to give you free feedback, oh my God, that's tens of thousands of dollars spent trying to get feedback from your customer through surveys and other methods when they're giving it to you for free. For free. All you got to do is listen. But ZOS is not going to do that, and it's never going to do that. So until somebody at the top gets replaced. Frog says if the band of effective builds are all within 5 to 10% of each other, then the build diversity in game would be significantly higher. Yes, absolutely. And then Boss, heavy attacks restore resources? I don't know. Maybe he's just got off Skyrim or something. Yeah, I don't know, man. Ash says, yeah, even back then, Rich thought PvP players complained too much, and he didn't seem to understand that they are two completely separate beasts. This was back when he was playing on his Sork in PvP. Peep something or other. Okay. All right. Thanks, Ash. That's good to know. That's really interesting. Rich Lambert is the creative director, for those who don't know who Rich is. He's the guy in charge of all of the game things, all the things you care about in the game. He's the guy ultimately in charge of them. And he used to be a lot more, he used to stream and he used to do a lot more social media, but he put his foot in his mouth one too many times and his privileges were revoked. So he's not allowed to do that anymore. Trigarda says Guild Wars 2 balances PvE and PvP separately. It could definitely help, but people complain about changes all the same. Yeah, well, that's the other thing, too. It's like sometimes people complain about things. I see it in my YouTube videos, guys, and they're not complaining to me, or like they're complaining to me, but about ZOS. And they'll say, hey, this is not good, whatever, blah, blah, blah. Like sometimes they're actually, I saw it in the forums. I was looking at them earlier, late last night, early this morning. And I was looking at some people complaining about some of the changes, and one person didn't understand how NecroRes worked. They thought NecroRes was supposed to be a DPS ability, and they were like talking about how it didn't make sense that you couldn't often find 3 bodies to res to turn into blast bones with a DPS morph. And it was like, dude, this is about resing people, not about getting 3 extra blast bones. Sometimes people don't know what they're talking about, but a lot of times, that's why I said not all feedback is created equal. Yeah. Vatra says, I remember watching an interview on the lead game designer of Dead Space 3, and the way he spoke about the game was like he was in love with his concept and game, went to links of ensuring departments he had no real reason being in, were following the essence of the game. Sorry, I feel like I'm not reading this well. Sorry. The way he spoke about the game was like he was in love with his concept and game. He went to great lengths of ensuring departments he had no real reason being in, were following the essence of the game, and that they were correct. I'm kind of auto-correcting here for Vatra a little bit. I feel like that sentiment with these products have died for the most part. Yeah. Not all products, guys. This is why independent studios are the future of gaming, guys, because indie games don't have this problem, okay? Indie games don't have this problem at all, and you find a lot of the lead developers, a lot of the people in charge are that passionate, Vatra. So, and I know most of you know this. I'm sure Vatra probably knows this, but I want to keep pointing it out. That's why I like playing indie games, and I like supporting even really small games. I play them on stream. I want to talk about them. I want to encourage people, if you like the product, to go buy it, because they slowly grow up over time, right? Larian Studios, right? Making some amazing games with Baldur's Gate 3. They've been making games, guys, for decades, okay? And they started off really small, and they slowly built better and better games. And so I want to support games studios that are in that process. I know it's a long-term commitment, but I kind of want to do it for the love of the game, right? Because we don't want these big evil corps running everything, right? Running our games, because that's what happens. The money comes in, and these people aren't passionate about their game anymore, and they should be replaced with people that are. But you don't find that with independent studios. People are because they make the thing that they want to make, and so they're passionate about it. This was also before Rebel left. Okay. All right, Ash. Ash, I have a gap in my play about that time, but this is still incredibly good info to know. Ralph says, I'm kind of new to ESO, but I'm just so glad to not be playing RS3 anymore. ZOS is immeasurably better than Jagex. Okay. Ralph, that's good to hear. Also good to know. I will avoid. That's crazy. Yeah, it is kind of funny how you go from like one thing and you're like, this company's, yeah, I don't know. You kind of have to have the spectrum. When you've been abused, you start to think that that's normal. Scribing has been broken for I'm sorry, Exethios, if I'm saying that right. Scribing has been broken for PvP. Subclassing will break PvP. Yeah. Hey, Loud, what's going on? It's good to see you. Why would a Necro base class slot Blast Bones over Deep Fissure? Yeah, maybe you slot both. You can precast Deep Fissure, but I'm sure you have a specific, still not worth it. Okay. Yeah. These are great questions. This is the balance thing that we were talking about. I think maybe before you got here, Xethios, or maybe you're just joining the conversation on it. Yeah. Took your advice and made a baby Arcanist. Oh my God, so fun. She's 20 now. Oh, that's great to hear, Loud. That's awesome. Yeah, Arcanists are super OP. They're great. And then Ash says, I think the average ESO player doesn't know much about the game because the game has always been awful at communicating itself to players, to be honest. Yeah. Yep, I think ZOS has often had a communication problem. All right, let's see what else we got. Oh, trial sets, update 42. We got Harmony and Chaos. Increases the amount of weapon and spell damage granted per tick to 135, up from 86. Recovery Convergence, reduce the cooldown of this set to 10 seconds, down from 30. Note that the synergy will continue to have a 20-second cooldown. Okay. Caspian's Cruel Signet increases the base damage of the set, deals by 98%. This set no longer deals increased damage for each sword active. Okay. And by nature can now critically strike because of this. Increase the application cooldown of the set to 500 milliseconds, up from 100 milliseconds. This set, so it's twice per second. This set now increases your damage done by 1% for every sword active. We're updating the functionality of the set to be less comparable to something like Azurblight or Reliquin, where each enemy or application scales the damage, largely since those sets already feel those functions incredibly well, and we have nerfed Azurblight into the ground, so you won't run that anymore, because we want you to run the new set arbitrarily. Instead of making something good and better, we have nerfed, this is me talking, Instead of making something good and different and better, we nerfed the old thing so that you have to use the new thing, and we don't have to actually invent anything really new. That's I'm translating for you guys, which is the same thing they did with the Templar class before they brought out Arcanist, and they think that we're stupid and don't know that this is what's going on. Rather than being and they're right to a large extent on the last part. Unfortunately, a lot of people don't know. It's not their fault, but the game is very complicated. Rather than but it feels bad to know it. Rather than being an in-between hybrid that doesn't excite nearly as much as, oh my god, I can't read. Rather than being an in-between hybrid that doesn't excite nearly as much as either, we're turning this into a damage multiplier for the wearer in high enemy density situations. This is so all your damage can increase, similarly to something like Thriving Chaos. Okay, so they're trying to make the set good, but okay. I mean, we'll have to see how it works out. Rip Azerblight, a good set from the 2019 to 2025. Oh, there's a lot of comments here. Let me catch up. Rain says, I don't like Deep Fisher. I like Blast Bones, would be my answer. Realish says, I was so excited after class today. Start farming pearls so I could make a really cool ulti-gen healer build I saw. I put on Skinny Cheeks videos and immediately got annoyed. Why is Os like this? Yeah. Yep. New ball group set just dropped. Yeah, there you go. Rip Azerblight. Yeah. Man, well, is that it? Soul Reaper events, Dread Sale. Oh. Okay, that's just a bug fix. Sound effects have been updated. Cool. All right, so it's just a bunch of other stuff, and then they changed the changed Aussie and Cage. Ogrim's Charge Telegraph will now consistently show to enemies. That's you. Ambient audio has been updated throughout the trial. Blood Drinker Thissa. Summon Blood Knights have increased health and veteran difficulty. Shapers of Flesh. Flesh Colossus no longer has a chance to form after the encounter is completed. Okay. On the second boss fight, Janora and Skorkif, the Heat Ray ability will no longer be used by monsters when Janora and Skorkith are at low health. Death recap hits for Sparking Heat and Blazing Heat Ray will now appear more consistently. Spark and Flame Surge visual effects no longer have a chance to end prematurely. Sparking Cold Flame and Blazing Flame Atronachs no longer have a chance to create more than one instance of Seeking Spark Surge or Seeking Forge Flame, and they will once again damage you. Adjusted the health thresholds before Titanic Clash can occur. The Titanic Clash duration has increased. Ally corpses will only be moved to the lower platform after Titanic Clash has completed, rather than during Titanic Clash. That's when you jump up to the top level. Okay, hard mode. Caustic Carrion will no longer increase in damage quite so dramatically. Okay. Increase the time between Janora and Skorkif dying and the remaining boss superheating the platform. Water break, sorry. Lower health of Sparking Banekins, Blazing Scamps, Sparking Cold Flame Atronachs, Blazing Flame Atronachs, and Enlightened Channelers. Reduce the damage done to Miranix and Valnar by some abilities. Janora and Skorkith will summon less Cold Flame and Blazing Atronachs at once. The Sparking and Blazing Inferno abilities now deal less damage. I didn't see healing debuff in this. Did I miss it? Is one of these the healing debuff being changed? It just didn't say it like that. Am I missing something here? Now, I like the idea that they make side grade situation sets that way not every patch drops stronger and stronger best in slot. But man, it feels like they purposely gut old ones to bump new ones. Yeah, Voss. I agree completely. Dapper says, if I wanted to build a bleed dot spec with Templar base class, what sub would I pick? Dapper, So they have changed. They said that they're fixing it. So they said they're fixing the scribing abilities where bleed actually procs like Drozikar and those other bleed specific sets. So that makes it where you can run it on. You could slot like a bunch of bleed sets for just from scribing. Warden is probably one of the number one classes that you would pick. You get a decent amount of bleed from a warden. Um, I I'm trying to think. I think most of it's dual wield after that. Warden is definitely the best class. Nightblade might come in there, but I actually don't think that most of their abilities are bleed. Maybe any of them. I'm just trying to go off memory. But main one would be Warden, and I'd have to look after that. Yeah, maybe if somebody else has a good idea, they could drop it in chat. But I think Warden would be their animal companion skill line specifically. So you only need that one skill line. Voss says definitely animal companions. There you go. Vatra says not to give them any ideas, but I'd totally take a skip campaign token for $20. Yeah. Daedric says I don't think they changed the heal check. That's overtuned, and we've given them that feedback. If they don't change this heal check, yeah. If they don't change the heal check, it kind of feels like when they wouldn't listen to us on Basai hard mode back in the day for Rockgrove. Anybody else have that same feeling? Nightblade is magic and disease, but yeah, Warden and Dual Wield have the most bleeds. Yeah, thanks. Yeah, I was thinking Animal Companion, either Necro or Nightblade. Yeah. Maybe Necro, because the bleed is considered a damage over time, maybe? And you could kind of work in there with the Gravelord. Might be a way to go. Well, that's it because our group last week couldn't even get past the heal check once, and it was consistently failing the heal check. That was from yesterday. So if you want to see the live stream on that, if you go to that boss, we couldn't even get past the heal check. I think it might be a little overtuned. And I would hesitate to blame the healers. Overfiend Caspian. This is the last boss, I think. Caspian will now always channel on the Dolores Sista when intended. You will now be teleported to the active platform. The bridge collapses. Those refuse to move from the channeler platform will be bombarded with meteors. Oh, okay. Okay. So for your safety, please move to the channeler platform. Yeah, you could just not do a mechanic, and there wasn't any punishment for it. Not running across the bridge, which was kind of odd, I thought. So I don't know why they didn't think about this, but it kind of felt like maybe they were going to do something different, and then they changed the fight, and this was like a remnant of how they were going to do it, but changed their mind or something. So that's good. You will now always perish should you jump off the platform in the encounter space. Okay. Giant swords will no longer target you as they emerge from the carrion portal. The Ossian Colossus will now afflict players with trauma when using its bone saw ability. All right. Trauma is a reduced healing received, right? So it's a heal. Is that what PvP players? Do you guys know what trauma does? Somebody remind me. Sound effects throughout this encounter have been updated. Overfeeding Caspian is not fond of fighting near his allies and will take drastic measures should that happen. Okay, so now we have to spread out even more. It's interesting. It's going to make it really hard for pugs, but I'm fine with it, I guess. This fight is like, I think I like it. I don't know. Hard mode. I don't really like any. I don't love any of the new fights in the new trial, just because I don't think any of them require you to work together enough. Hard mode is different, but in non-hard mode, like you just don't have to work together enough, and I think that's a problem. That's the whole point of a trial. I would have loved to seen something like NCR +3 style of mechanics, for example. Hard mode increase the health of Overfiend Caspian, lower Lord Warden Dusk. Okay. Oh, no, I'm sorry. Increase the health of all of them. Okay. All right. Caustic Carrion will now increase the damage inflicted much quicker. Okay, so that's the dot. Is this caustic carry-on? Is that not the dot that ticks up on you, or is that something else? Hmm. Yeah, I don't know. Don't think they changed the heal check. Yeah, that was thinking animal comp. And okay, sorry, I read those. Nightblade is yeah, I read that too. I'm sorry. Robert says Zoss put me back in limbo with these patch notes. No idea what I want to play going into U46. And then Data says, yeah, it's the dot you need the synergy for. This caustic carry-on dot is a bad mechanic in my opinion. It doesn't telegraph very well. Even it pops up in text on your screen, and that's the best cue in game that you have it. And then you still don't really know what it does. That is not telegraphed. That is not well explained. That does not give you an opportunity to work around the mechanic or to survive longer. It's pretty much it just ticks up until you're fine, you're fine, you're fine, you're dead. And it's just a very poorly designed mechanic, and I don't think it's fun at all. Um, it's just a poorly designed mechanic. That's all there is to it. It's whoever came up with this idea and this implementation and all the people responsible. I would just like you to know that you did a bad job. You could do better. You could do better. Vossball says, I think trauma is the unique buff, healing, absorb. Okay, plus damage and armor reduction from the big ad heavies. I think. Okay. No cleanse or defense against it. The cleanse is a mechanic. You have to kill an ad and then synergize in a circle that they have. Robert, um, it just doesn't feel very good, man, and it's not clear what's happening or that anything is happening, and so it's hard to. You're just all of a sudden you're dead. Mechanics should be well telegraphed. If you're very survivable, or if you know what to do, I think you should be able to like increase the duration. Nah, it's pretty much just a one shot. And they went with that with a lot of things in this trial, and they feel really bad. It's just like reintroducing like one shots with the um, I want to say snipe, but it's not snipe. The archer the archer attack, the channeled attack that just one shot you. Agreed, especially with all the visual clutter in the game. Well, I don't even, I honestly, Robert, like I've done this trial like 10 times and I don't know what the visual is, if there is one. That's how, and I don't think it's just a clutter. I just think it's a really poorly designed mechanic there. Um, and they could have done a lot better with it personally. Uh, I talked about that at length. Well, guys, there's the patch notes. Taking aim. Thank you. Geez, taking aim. That's what it is. All right. So what does all this mean? What's the takeaway, I guess? Well, I think for me, yeah, no problem, Frog. I think for me the takeaway is yeah, yeah, 89k damage. I think for me the big takeaway is that almost nothing has changed. We certainly did not get what so many people were crying for, which was, if I keep my base class, give me an increase to my damage so I don't have to multi-class. That didn't happen at all. Um, I think the biggest major change to me is the changing of the beam to a direct damage, even though it's clearly a damage over time ability. I think that mechanically that works well. I think that makes for so much more confusion for players. How are you going to think that an ability that does damage over time is considered, uh, you know, direct damage and not damage over time? That's pretty confusing. But I do think that it nerfed the beam some, and then they tried to buff the Templar's beam so that it didn't lose as much of its effectiveness. I think nerfing the beam was a good move after they buffed it by 6%. So we saw a lot of really confusing changes that didn't seem it seems like the changes were like we made bad suggestions, and so we don't want to be like we did this wrong and we just need to take that back. Instead, we're going to like change other things that will hopefully that cause knock-on effects but will maybe fix the I don't know. It doesn't make any sense to me for the most part. Further nerfed Azure Blight, not into the I mean, they already nerfed it before, so they nerfed it even more so it doesn't work with a beam build. maybe that was the only. I don't understand some of these changes. It's pretty odd. Um, Dragon Knight, they increased their sustain after nerfing their sustain, which is another one of those examples of like causing a problem and then doing a weird thing to fix it instead of just undoing the thing that they did wrong. Um, Anybody know if Rune Carver procs on bleed damage? I don't off the top of my head. I'd have to read the tooltip. Volsboss says, well, at least they killed the dual beam loadout. Now the beam kids can cry in the corner with the zoo folks. Jadric says, only cool thing about the notes is that Tentacular Dread builds are significantly better than beam builds now. Rest is frustrating. Yeah, I think that is the really good thing. Yeah, that I think Daedric's right there. Not a huge surprise that now. Unfortunately, you still have to take the same skill line, but you have more variability in builds that do single target damage or do different damage types, not just relying on the beam. But you do have to use Tentacular Dread for the extra 11% increased damage. Again, the Dragon Knight was kind of weird. This is some minor changes to the Sorcerer. Like, cool, they brought this back up. They admitted one mistake out of probably a lot. Some other changes that are pretty small and probably don't matter. Some things that in theory could be better for a tank, but probably aren't. Probably doesn't matter. And they did buff the Warden, and they are trying to make a Frost Warden viable. As someone who has long done Frost Warden builds, this is great. I hope to be able to make a Frost Warden build now with, combined skill lines, a multi-class one. And then they absolutely gutted Pearls of El Nofe and Pillager's Prophet to the point that they probably won't be ran anymore. And so we're going to have to figure something else out completely with this. This has further thrown raid composition for a loop. And we'll have to see what we do. I'm not really sure. I think for people hoping for a lot of changes or a little bit of changes, like, I don't think anybody's going to be happy with this. There's just like this weird stuff off to this. I mean, I say that again, the one change is that, which I do think is really good, is the beam builds, because they're the easiest to use, and the easiest to use build should not be the one that does absolutely the most damage, but they have been brought down a decent amount. It didn't really help with many of the other, like having more options for viable builds. That didn't happen at all. Again, with as far as the number, the builds that we already had that we're not using the beam will now be better in comparison, but we didn't add a number to those really. So that's kind of unfortunate. And then healers are going to have to change these setups and these sets unless something else changes with this. Guys, I will note, like, I've done a lot of videos on the various patch changes, and I will continue to do videos. What I hate and what I don't want to do is spend a bunch of time figuring out like what we're running for and like how to do a whole healer setup without Pillager's Prophet or Pearls of MFA. And then they change this on, patch day. So just realize, just like everybody else, it might take us a bit of time. I have been able to put out some builds on things that didn't change and I didn't think were going to change, and they haven't changed. So those will still be good, and I will try to put out more like that. But the things that are really up in the air, look for live streams talking about them, because I'm not going to spend the whole time making a video, which takes a lot of hours to make something really concise. It'll more be on live streams, and we can talk about this more. We will be talking about group optimization and trial composition, I'm guessing on Friday. Probably on Friday, just because that's usually Monday and Friday are usually the 2 days that I do other ones, but usually those 2 days for sure I do kind of a talking live stream where we chat and we talk about changes and what have you. And I think that will be a good time to talk about raid group composition moving forward. But I don't think a lot of stuff has changed. I think that if you knew information, from past weeks going into this, I don't think a lot of it has really changed that materially to me. Dapper says, okay, all dots, thank you. Trying to see what sets I would run for a bleed-based dot build. Need the dual. Dapper, if you go onto my YouTube channel, man, and you search like Bleed Warden, I think. Let me see. I think you should find the sets you want. And you should be able to find some good skills there. It's this one right here. Oh, we got ads. Sorry. It's that one right there. Right here. So yeah, this should tell you the skills you want to use, on a Warden, as well as some of the dual wield and two-hander, which also apply bleed. Just know that scribing now, they changed it on PTS so that I think on PTS, so that it doesn't work on live, but the scribing skills that have bleed, we're not proccing sets like Drozakar and oh man, there's a couple others, but you can find it here. You can also find it on the website, nighthowrgaming.com, man, so you can find it there for you if you need it, but it should be right here. So dot sets don't proc. RCB, by the way, procs don't procs, only dot skills. Yes, only skills. What will be the best race for subclassing? The best race for subclassing for DPS, and you could argue for everything now, and for healing now, is a Nightblade, or I'm sorry, Nightblade, jeez. A Dark Elf. I play a Dark Elf. Nightblade is my main, guys. I'm sorry. A Dark Elf, and the reason for that is while the unfortunate thing is you don't have any sort of sustain, but you do damage on Stamina or Magicka equally well, and also that means your healing is also fine. It's barely below like a high elf on Magicka damage, and it's just as good as anything else on a stamina build. Like they're basically the same, guys. So and then also with the increase in armor, which we didn't see any changes to, like you can get to armor cap on any race, which you've been able to before. So you could actually use a dark elf to run everything, healer, tank, whatever. It won't be the best on your tank, but it's just as good as anything else on your DPS and healer, or basically just as good as anything else. Some stuff is better, but like you don't need it, so it doesn't really matter. So that's what I would say. If you are Knight wasn't subscribed to his own channel, this is I'm not signed in, man. Normally I have like bring back vengeance, Alan says. The biggest difference between choosing the best and worst class for DPS is about a 5% damage loss, and the best class or best race, best race right now for tanking is going to be it depends on what class you're playing a bit, but right now I would say it's Imperial. But again, you could do it on a Dark Elf if you wanted. It's definitely not a Nord anymore. People are still going to say it's Nord. It's not Nord. It hasn't been Nord for a long time, but Red Guard is also really good for a newer player and for most players, and you don't need a race change ever. So a Red Guard is also really good. You get back stamina while blocking. So, well, guys, I mean, I think that's it. I think we covered it for today. Yeah, stuff's wild. I don't know if there's anything else you guys want to talk about. Are cases making a comeback? Robert, I don't think so. I thought about it, Ben, but I don't think it hits enough people. I think you're going to want to run something else. I don't know. Maybe you have an NK healer. I don't know. We'll have to see. I mean, there's probably other options, but we shall see. All right, guys, we're going to call it here for now. We will be back a little bit later on. Oh, no. Mel says crying baby emoji. We'll be back later on tonight. We've got on live. We've got a hard mode Rock Grove that we're doing. Group has just started. Literally, I think today is like, I don't even know if the group is officially what it's going to be. So that might still be a bit open. But we've got that run at 7:30 Mountain Time, 9:30 Eastern, and yeah, I think that's it for today. And then, of course, tomorrow we're doing Helldivers at 4 p.m. Mountain Time, 6 p.m. Eastern. And then we're doing some Warframe after that, 2 hours after that start time. And then we got more trials on Wednesday. And, of course, quite a bit more trials Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, as well as some Helldivers and some other stuff. Rockgrove, yay, yeah. Yeah, I'm Necro off-tanking tonight. So, guys, the main thing is that the changes for the healers are maybe going to change up. It's maybe going to limit it. None of the skill lines have changed, but it has limited a bit what our options are. Tanks, everything is pretty much the same. I can't think of anything that really changed significantly. And then for DPS, I think it's largely there's going to be some tweaks, but it's largely the same. And then we'll see. Maybe you'll see Basai. Hey man, I've heard of Basai. I haven't seen him before, man, but I've heard of him. Maybe we'll see him tonight. All right, guys. I appreciate everybody for dropping in. Appreciate all the comments, all of the feedback, all of the notes. Also, always love the questions, guys. If you ever have any questions, these live streams are always a great time. If I don't know the answer, a lot of times somebody else in chat does. What is this Messiah you speak of? Yeah. But I appreciate everybody. Frog, Daedric. I'm gonna go through the list because I like to. Frog, Daedric, Chicken, Alan, Voss Boss. I appreciate all of you guys' input. Robert, the questions were great. Um, who else we got here? Oh man, we got a bunch. We're gonna keep going. I'm gonna miss somebody. Dapper, appreciate you dropping in some questions. Ash, your input and some of your history on that was really helpful. Realish, as always, very helpful. Rain, it was good seeing you. Um, Exathios, I appreciate you dropping a comment. I don't think we've seen you chat too much before. Maybe we have. And Giappi, appreciate the question and the point. Fest, I appreciate the pushback a little bit too, man. Always love different perspectives and keeping me honest. Jammins, appreciate it. Buzzard Hunter, Trigarda, very very chatty today. I appreciate all of your comments and your thoughts there, Trigarda, and many more. I could keep going through the list, but appreciate you guys. Ryan Harner, I appreciate your feedback on the audio as well. But we'll see you a little bit later on today, guys. Hope you have a great day, and thanks everybody for tuning in. All right, we'll see you next time.